Hey, what's going on, guys? Garden Shed here, and welcome to 2,000 mile review of my V-Strom 650. So I bought this bike back in October, and it's March now. Current mileage is 2,114 miles. So yeah, and I wanted to do a 2,000 mile review on it because I've done a lot more since the 600 mile review. The first service review of it. I've been touring on it. I've ridden at night. I've done long distance on the motorways. Been long bumpy roads. And so I thought I'll give you my review of it from a stock point of view if you're approaching this. I know I've done reviews in the past, but seems likely to do. So, first things first, seating position. I have got the low seat on this, just so you're aware. I'm 5'6". I can't flat foot it. I can get both my toes down, my tippy toes down. Which is absolutely fine with me. I'm perfectly comfortable with it. It can, if the road is slightly obscure though, it can be quite a weight to push off the side stand. Good like that. Nice comfortable riding position, arms out straight, a little bit down, knees just less than 90 degrees with the stock seat, a little bit tighter with the low seat because obviously your feet are close to the pegs. Whoops. Just around town when you're riding it, it feels really, really light. It doesn't feel like a big heavy bike. I think it's about 65 horsepower, something like that. Nice bike, especially around towns. And the brakes seem perfectly good. I wouldn't say they're anything spectacular, but they do an adequate job. Well, they do a good job of stopping it. Switch gears, nice and good. The only weird thing is with Suzuki, because we've got the traction control and sort of screen mode button there where your where your high beam low beam normally is. The high beam low beam's on a trigger, which is not good. I do find I sometimes knock it into high beam without realising. Now this does have Suzuki's low RPM assist, so you can literally pull away on the clutch without stalling it. It just builds up the revs. It also does have three-stage traction control, so one being least intrusive, two being most intrusive, and off. Just, to mild bimble and stuff like that. First gear, just crawling along. It's nice and light. It doesn't feel like a heavy bike. And it does have an adjustable front brake. It doesn't have adjustable rear levers. Sorry, clutch lever. The gearbox, nice reassuring clunk as it goes through the gearbox. Neutral's easy to find. In 2,000 miles I've never had any false neutrals, missed gears, anything like that. And the instrument panel's great. You've got gear indicator, so you can see I'm in first gear crawling along here. Nice clear speedo. And then a whole load of information. Engine temperature, miles. You can change between your total mileage, trip mileage, clock, outside air temperature, range. You can change it to average fuel economy, instant fuel economy. Basically more information than you're ever really going to need. And it's all done with the traction control button. You can change traction control on the move, providing you turn off the accelerator. Being a V-twin, it's got lots of low down grunt. It's not so good going up through the gears. It's fine on sort of small country roads and things like that. It's really nice handling. As I say, it doesn't feel heavy. With the low down grunt as well, it's quite nice, but at the top end it does start to run out of poke. Now, I wouldn't say I'm a fast rider, so I can't comment on the tyres. They seem to do a perfectly good job. The tyres seem to perform really well in the wet. All in all, it's a nice bike to ride. It isn't the most powerful, and you'll notice, I think one of its biggest shortcomings as we come up to the dual carriageway, that is it's shortfalling, this bike. With the standard seat, it's not too bad with the screen and things. There is a little bit of buffeting. I've got the Vario Suzuki screen on, but combine it with a short seat and you do get bad turbulence on your helmet. I've tried the screen in various positions and things like that. It's a combination of the mirrors, the screen, and the low seat. The mirrors are absolutely fantastic, barely any blind spots at all. Really, really good. You can see a car in both mirrors if they're following a normal distance behind you. It will sit at 80, but then you start getting quite bad vibrations through the bars and pegs. Sat at 80, as well as the turbulence being absolutely horrific, so I can't say I've ever sat at 80 on it. But it corners really nicely. It feels really stable in the corners. The suspensions are nice. I'm only 7.5 stone, so some bike suspension can feel very hard for me, but it does feel nice for me. I think some people might say it's a little bit soft. The gear ratios are pretty close together, surprisingly so. So you find when you're accelerating you are changing gear quite a lot. I must say I'm slightly downtrodden by the build quality on this. I don't think it's top notch. You know, little wires down here, exposed wires, things like that. But also the headstock, 2,000 miles. I always keep my bike really tidy. I never leave it more than 24 hours after riding it to wash it. And the headstock's already started rusting, as has the inside of the brakes. Really, build quality wise and things like that, I'm not overly impressed with it. So one thing that I was asked about when in the previous review I did of this was the what's the headlight like? And I have ridden it at night. I was really impressed with it actually. I didn't think, you know, it's definitely better than my Kawasaki was. I was really impressed about how much light a single headlight could throw out. It worked really well. You could ride perfectly happy on low beam, stick it on a high beam, and it was really good. The front suspension is non-adjustable, but it's, as I say, for me it does a good job. The rear suspension is preload adjustable, and it's great. There's a little knob by the rear foot pegs, so you can adjust it on the fly, which is quite good if you haven't quite got it right, or you know, if you're just bimbling along. But I have had a little play with it. I tend to increase the preload a little bit when I got my top box on. Apparently I've been told lights in the fog, indicators and things are seen nice and clearly. No need for a tail tidy on this. The whole tail mudguard assembly does the job reasonably well. There is no sort of rear mudguard as such, and you do find on a long journey that your number plate can be completely overridden with mud. I do quite like having a big tachometer in front of me. The dials do look quite dated. What's this bike like? Well, on a backcountry road it's actually really comfortable. The suspension I find quite nice and soft, which is good for, well, I find it normal because I don't weigh very much. I think some people may find it's fairly soft, but it's led me to be a little bit more adventurous in my riding, ride down roads that I wouldn't normally use, like this road for example, maybe because it was just a little bit too bumpy for me on my ER6 that I had before. The seat is quite comfy. After about 150 miles you do start to get a little bit of a sore bum, not from padding, I think it's the way it cups you. So you know, tend to pull over, fill up with fuel, grab some refreshments and then hit the road again. But no, it's a good bike, really like it. It feels like this position, you know, you could be comfortable most of the day on it and it wouldn't really bother you too much. When it comes to overtaking, all the power's quite low down, there's very little in the mid-range, and so overtaking can be a bit tricky. It means you have to change gear quite a bit, which is, I wouldn't say is ideal by any circumstance. But on a twisty road, sort of slow road, B road, something like that, it is really comfy. It's nice to go and explore. Some of the back roads I did in Wales were truly torn up and things like that. Cope with those absolutely fine. No big issues, anything like that. It's got a nice amount of engine braking to it. I find I don't have to use the brakes a huge amount. It is a nice bike to ride. For me, with the low seat, the turbulence is a deal breaker. if I'd known it would have been this bad, despite, you know, changing windscreens and with the different seat. I mean, I rode the demo, I did 60 miles on the demo, it was nowhere near as bad, but that had the normal seat on. You know, if you're vertically challenged like myself, if you've got the money, I would go with the Tiger 800 XR. I'd say this is more fun on a twisty road, yes. It's just that turbulence, it's an absolute killer. And I can flat foot a Tiger 800 with the seat in the low position. Dad's XRT is actually lower than my V-Strom. His seat in the normal position is lower than my V-Strom, which says quite a lot, to be honest. It is a tall bike. Anyway, I'm going to end the video here, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you ever so much for watching, and take care.